Meanwhile, President Trump is facing a major test on trade as NAFTA negotiations begin today. Mr. Trump is scheduled to meet this week in Washington with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He wants to renegotiate that deal, which he has repeatedly called, quote, the worst trade deal in all of history. During his campaign and since taking office, he said the U.S. has been treated unfairly. Earlier this year, he threatened via Twitter to terminate the deal if better terms are not met. Fred Hochberg is the former chairman and president of the Export-Import Bank of the United States and joins us now on set. Fred, welcome. Let's start with NAFTA and the fact that it was negotiated under the Bush administration, implemented under the Clinton administration. So right away, you think bipartisan support when it was passed. How has it affected the U.S. in broad terms since its implementation in the mid-90s?
Well, in broad terms, it's done many, many good things. But trade has gotten to be a very charged issue. In some way, trade's become a four-letter word. The North American Free Trade Agreement means that goods and services flow generally freely amongst the three countries. Today, a third of our manufactured exports go to either Canada or Mexico. So those are now huge markets, much bigger markets than they were 23 years ago when this was first put into place. So they've become our major trading partners, and a lot of our economy is based on that.
Okay, when the president calls it the worst deal in history, is he referring to the trade deficit?
I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to. I don't know that there's been a full analysis of every trade deal done.
Okay, but there is a trade deficit, for example, with Mexico, which I believe is a $60 billion more in goods that they bring or that we buy from Mexico.
Well, yes, we have a trade deficit. We have a manufactured trade deficit with Mexico.
Okay.
If you add in services, and remember, we're a service economy. We're increasingly a service economy. If you put that in, we actually have a surplus between the United States, Canada, and Mexico of about $12 billion.
Okay.
So it's very easy. I ran the Export-Import Bank for President Obama. We often focus only on manufactured goods, but services are a key part of our economy, whether it's entertainment, insurance, financial services.
But that leads into Trump's other argument, which is that the U.S. has lost manufacturing jobs to NAFTA. Is that accurate? Is there evidence of that?
Well, we have certainly lost manufacturing jobs in our country, without question. And trade is a factor, but I would say today it is universally understood that technology, innovation, automation are far bigger factors
than globalization, which is exhibited by NAFTA. Okay, when we look at renegotiations, what could possibly be renegotiated that would give the United States the fairer deal that President Trump talks about?
Well, remember, one of the challenges in any negotiation, everybody wants something different. So our auto manufacturers, a lot of manufacturers, like the rules of origin, how goods made within the three countries can move rather freely. There are factions on labor side. They would like to strengthen those rules of origin and actually require even more goods in automobiles to be labeled made in North America to be covered, to expand that. So there's a lot of tension between the business interests, labor interests, and let's also remember both President Trump, President Nieto in Mexico, and Justin Trudeau all have their own political constituencies they also have to cater to.
So what are the prospects, you think, of there being a different deal that comes out of this week of negotiations?
Well, it's always hard on the first day of negotiation. There's always a lot of posturing. Everybody puts a lot of things on the table. It's hard today to know what's real and what is actually put out there as something you want to negotiate with. The thing that does concern me, there's a lot of chatter about doing this very quickly. These things very rarely happen quickly.
Didn't it take 3 years to negotiate the original deal?
And the Colombia, Panama, South Korean one took about 6 years. Yeah. So the idea that we're going to do this by the end of the year to make it clear the way for our own midterm elections in 18, the Mexican elections in June of 18, does seem highly ambitious. I don't want to be a skeptic, but highly ambitious.
And highly political.
And highly political. These are political agreements as much as anything else.
Yeah. Fred Hochberg, thanks so much for your insight. You made that clear for us.